there, welcome back to the Science House Express Chat. I am Pamela Gilchrist, Director of Imhotep and Anderson Academy at the Science House. Today we are chatting with Dr. Lewis Johnson, a professor of physics and Associate Provost for Student Success and Strategic Initiatives at Florida A&M. Dr. Johnson is an alum of North Carolina State University and Duke University. His research focuses on the generation, propagation, and interaction of light waves in the electromagnetic spectrum and their novel applications in our everyday life and world. Another research focus of his is STEM education. He has taught general and modern physics, optics, astronomy, and physical science courses for more than 20 years, conducted funded research and laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy, LIBS, laser matter interactions, and STEM education initiatives, and mentored graduate and STEM undergraduate students who've gone on to work in government and private industry. Lewis, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to get a chance to talk with you today.
Thank you.
So will you tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew your interest in this field?
I guess from an early age, I've always been interested in science, how things work. My uncle used to bring puzzles that he got for me, and I would spend hours trying to solve the puzzles. Parents would take me everywhere and anything to do with science, and I just developed an interest in it at an early age. I went from oceanography because I love sharks to then I discovered computers at a very early age. I wanted to be a computer scientist, and I wanted to be an electrical engineer. So I got into NC State. I was in the engineering school. Then I took a physics class. And to be honest, I wasn't really interested in physics because in high school, I really didn't understand it. But it was when I took my physics classes, kind of clicked for some reason. And I met one of my best friends this day, fellow named Donnell Walton, and I tell this story, and I was like, well, he can do it, I can do it. Was more like, he was encouraging me, and so I double majored in electrical engineering and physics and did well in both of them. I did not complete the electrical engineering degree because at that time the professors were saying, well, you might as well just go to grad school because you were done in 4 years, and I needed another year for the engineering degree. So I applied to grad school, got in a very wide variety of grad schools, including MIT's electrical engineering. So I figured I didn't need the engineering degree. So I settled on Duke University because they were doing free electron lasers, and I had this old Discover magazine, and it talked about Star Wars, all the missile defense systems, and one of the things was a free electron laser, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And I wanted to go to Stanford, where Dr. Mady was, but as I was applying, he moved his operation to Duke, which was 30 minutes down the road. So I basically went to Duke, and I did free electron lasers. I learned a lot. I had a great experience. And I finally got to go to California. I had a postdoc at Lawrence Berkeley Lab when I finished there. And from Lawrence Berkeley Lab, I did it 6 months in Hawaii because John moved his operation from Duke to Hawaii, and I followed him to help him set up some stuff out there. And then I ended up at Florida A&M University.
Okay, wonderful. I like how you say just your curiosity and interest, directed your passion toward the field. What drives your passion for sharing your work with students and families?
I've been very blessed in that there was a wide variety of people that took the time to explain stuff to me. I worked at AT&T Bell Labs, and it was a wondrous place when you walk down the hallway and people will just drag you into their labs and tell you what was going on. And they wanted you to generally understand it, what was going on. They didn't want to talk over your head. They wanted you to really grasp it. And I remember at one talk, nobody was saying anything, and the person was kind of like prodding us, ask questions. If you have a question, ask it. Don't be afraid. And it was that passion for science, yet passion for sharing it. And realize as being an African American, I like to see yourself sometime. And a lot of the environments I was in, I really didn't see myself because the numbers of Black students or Black faculty members was very limited. So being able to share my love with young undergrads, young grad students, or young K through 12 students, and get them excited into this wonderful world of science is it's one of the things I live for. I get so excited when you just can go out there and look up in the sky and just wonder. And I want to see them just wondering and just asking questions and just exploring those passions.
Okay, thank you. So, what's the coolest thing about your work as a physicist and being in the STEM field at an HBCU?
I would say my biggest accomplishment, I like to say, are my babies, and those are my grad students that I produced. So, you're supposed to reproduce, and I reproduced myself 4 times now.
Awesome.
I have Cleon, who was my first student. He's an associate professor now at Alabama State. He's doing well. Jorge Martinez, he was my second student, and he actually did 3 electron lasers for his postdoc when he finished with me. And now he works at a company called Cymer, and they're making the next generation light sources, which power the next extreme ultraviolet lithography, which is what I did kind of for my postdoc. So it's kind of funny, you go full circle. So he was trained in something else, and he actually ended up doing the stuff that I actually did for my graduate work and for my PhD, for my postdoc work. So, and I keep track of him from when I find my friends, and he's living a good life. He's either out in San Diego sometimes, he's in New York sometimes, he's in Amsterdam, he's traveling the world for his company, and I'm proud of that. And there's Stacy, who works for the National Nuclear Security Agency now. She does nuclear proliferation. So she's traveling the world, and she manages a $1 billion budget almost. And Candace is my latest graduate. She's at Lawrence Livermore Labs now, being a nuclear weapons scientist. So those are my proudest accomplishment, is getting them off into their lives. The other cool thing about what I do is I work with lasers. So I'm not sure if this is true today, but one of my proudest things was Florida A&M, which is a historically Black college and university in the state of Florida. It had the second brightest laser. One day I was talking and I bumped into Florida State University's then VP of research. And I introduced myself. He says, "I know you. You have the best laser lab in Tallahassee." And that made my head swell. But I take great pride in the fact that I was able to garner resources and bring those resources to Florida A&M University. And the colleagues out there in the industry they don't see it as a inferior lab. They are sending, back when I was more active, they would send their students and everything up to Tallahassee to work in my lab to get results to go back to their labs. And that felt good. That felt real good. So students and equipment and playing in my labs, those are the things that really, really drive me.
Awesome. When I came on at the Science House about 15 years ago, I came on to coordinate a photonics program. So the goal was to introduce it to students from underrepresented backgrounds. And what I found to really engage them was to find ways to connect it to how they live, work, and play. So do you ever have that challenge as well, like how to make physics relevant to others? And what are some things you do to make it cool and then to see the relevance?
Well, I often joke about students that learning physics, like the world connects and you see how it gets together. The problem with it is it doesn't happen to your junior year. So freshman and sophomore years are like, do as I say. And then after you get to an appropriate level of knowledge, then you start seeing all the connections form. And for me, even though my degree is pure physics, I've always considered myself more of an applied physicist. The stuff I do is always on the fringes of many different disciplines. So the stuff I do is detection of hazardous materials in environments. So it's something that you can get to the average person. You can, I used my wife was bringing it up a few days ago. When I met her, I used the analogy of Imagine you're trying to find a bad person in the football stadium. So everybody's clapping, but you're trying to figure out how that one particular person is clapping is different from all other 50,000 people. So you'll walk around with a microphone until you find that right. Now, suppose you can't walk around with a microphone, and suppose you're 1 mile away from the stadium, and suppose instead of 50,000 people in the stadium, it's 1 million. And that's the problem that we're doing. You know, we're trying to figure out that one molecule that's vibrating different from another molecule to indicate the presence of something bad that may go boom, that may be radioactive, that may be biologically hazardous. So that, you know, we try to do those analogies to make it real world. You know, a lot of our money came from Iraq, basically looking at trying to find explosives in theater. So, you know, you're in a Humvee and you're driving along, you don't want to get out and walk up to that car or something to see if something's going to go explosive. You want to pull out some type of laser, shoot it there, get a signal back and say, you know what, there's a strong chance that there's some explosive compounds nearby and you might want to back off. So we try to tell those stories about really, you know, what is the end purpose of what we're working on and what is it really going to do. You can go into the nitty gritty physics and, you know, each publication gets you a little bit closer to that dream. And that dream may be still 20 years away, but you try to relate it to some end goal.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So our theme this week is optics. What makes optics so exciting and relevant in your research in the world?
Oh, well, optics, I guess, to me, there's the physics definition. I think about the manipulation of light. Mm-hmm. You know, light comes out of the laser, and I have to focus. I have to shape it and focus it and get it down and to a point where I can do what I need to do with that light, and I have to use optics. And the cool thing about optics is it's not just when you talk about light. When I used to work at Duke and particle accelerators, the electrons that go through the particle accelerator, they operate off of the same type of equations, which is, again, one of those advanced things where you see how the world relates to everything. It's like, oh, wow. But understanding light and understanding how to manipulate light is just a wonderful thing. And another element of what I used to do is I used to do wedding photography on the side. I used to say that my background in optics and light allows me to visualize light slightly different than another person. Because when you're trying to operate a camera, your goal is to see how light is coming in. And most people, they see the room as this lit, but they don't really think for a second, what's the direction that the light's coming in? If I put my shutter for a certain length of time, how am I going to shape it and make it look like that? And to me, those are just amazing things when you have that command of and knowledge of the situation where you can manipulate it to your own benefit.
Awesome. Well, I have a niece and she's like in the 7th grade, and her question was, what can I do with optics?
Optics is the future. Personally, I can't wait till the day that Apple or Google or somebody comes up with really, really good, small, lightweight AR glasses. Imagine putting the goggles on and being able to see your world overlaid on top of you. The technology to really do that in the level that I'm talking about doesn't exist yet. So it's going to require smaller electronics, smaller optical components. It's going to require an understanding of some new physics to do all of that. But those are things that we all dream about, but the future, we need those. Understanding fiber optics, understanding the transmission of data. We need optics to really do that in a more efficient manner. The biggest thing, our medicine. I used to do stuff back at Duke, and we talk about the future, but we still only have scratched the surface. We use lasers and light to sculpt the cornea so that it could give people the ability to see or replace the need for glasses, treatment for cancer, all types of tattoo removal if you so happen to have one and want to get rid of it. our understanding and our usage of light is just wide open.
Thank you. So what's the biggest challenge you face in your research, Louis?
I guess these days my biggest challenge is just having enough time to get into the lab. I don't even know if I know how to turn on the lasers anymore. When my postdoc and students see me come in, they cringe. Our biggest challenge these days of what we're working on is trying to look at nuclear materials. That's the big thing. So using optical techniques to detect the presence of nuclear materials, that is where we're moving, and that's where we have moved in my lab, and those are the things that we're really looking at. In my other job, I guess my biggest challenge is trying to get students to perform well. And I would say the biggest thing in a little public service announcement is your math is very important. I see a lot of students coming to school and their math background is not where they want to be in STEM. They want to do engineering, they want to do science, they want to do biology, and they want to do all of that. And they haven't reached the level of math maturity that we would expect at a certain level. So my message, and it's not just my school, it's most schools across the country, we are decreasing our ability. So I would say definitely to students who are very interested in STEM math, you don't have to love it. I don't love math. I just don't have to do it.
So you've given some advice, but what other things do you wish people knew about optics or STEM that they typically don't know?
STEM is for everybody. You don't necessarily need to be the geek or the nerd that only thinks about it. There are a lot of people across the spectrum I've encountered that do science. People that you wouldn't expect and people that you expect, but they do it because they have an interest in it and they have a love for it. And there was this article I read about 10 years ago. I forgot the source of it, but the person said something very profound. What stops a lot of people from pursuing a career in science is because they think we, the ones that do science, are some super geniuses. So they don't see us when we're struggling. They don't see us when we had to not go to a party and study or get problems wrong or fail a test or whatever. Only about the 5% of us are those people that just get everything. The rest of us, just like everybody else, had to work for it. And the most important thing I would like to know is, people to know is that you put in the effort and you see the rewards. And if they will start putting in the effort, even though it's not pretty and it may be painful, and like I said, you may fail a test, you may not understand the problem, you may have to ask for help. Those are all things that most of us, 95% of us, had to do. But we did it, and we ended up on the other side of the mountain now.
I like that. It's almost like applying the scientific method or process into learning. You continue at it, and you may experience some challenges, but you can still move forth and experience success by staying persistent and applying knowledge. So we have one more thing after this. I appreciate all the information you've shared. Is there any other advice you would like to give young girls or boys wanting to go into the field of physics or even more broadly STEM?
Most important thing is the future is wide open. I wish I could go back in time 20 years and there's so many things that I wish I could now, do. Computers are a lot more advanced now these days than when I was in school, so they have more opportunities to learn stuff. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. So my advice is learn how to code. And you don't have to love it, you just need to learn how to do it. Learn how to do math. You don't have to love it, just do it. And let your creativity infuse you, and you don't know where it's going to lead. I was showing my wife the other day how Apple announced the contest winners, and the young lady that won, she's going to law school, but she built an app because she knew how to code. And that skill of coding is not for the nerds, it's not for the geeks, it's just a skill that everybody should learn. And you may want to go into music, you may want to go into the arts, you may want to do law, but understanding and picking up all of those little things, you don't know what great stuff that you're going to create once you get that, all of those little tentacles inside of you. And you're going to do something wonderful. But so don't be afraid of a challenge, and don't be afraid not to understand stuff. And the future, the background is wide open. I want to see one day somebody walking on Mars, and I want to be able to sit back and go, hey, I helped that person, or that person saw me and got energized or something. But, so I understand we got a bunch of problems. My generation and the generation behind me has created a bunch of problems. But as another physicist told me, learn to look at things with your good, learn to listen with your good ear. When something's bad, that just means that's a problem for you to solve.
I like that. Be open to solving problems and see the connections of what you do across fields. I hear that too. It's powerful. And explore and work hard at it. And know that the future is yours to create.
Right.
Powerful. Thank you, Lewis, for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Lewis. Next week, we will be speaking with another scientist, so be sure to join in. Until next time, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Additional information can be found in the description box below. Thank you for watching our Science House Express chat. See you next week.